Well, me and GP are just hanging out in the bomb site, and as you can see, a bomb site it is. Me and my neighbour dug out about 3 cubics of gravel in preparation to have some concrete in here. Now, fortunately, we didn't dig deep enough to uncover my dark past, but it was close. But me and the Jeep had just got back from a little outing. Beautiful time of year, nice colours in autumn. And that video will probably be out next weekend, but I don't really have time to edit that at the moment. I'm just too busy with this, to be honest. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to answer some of your comments in a Q&A. First question, Steve-Kex3BS. Have you done any work on MAXX 4x4? What he's talking about, if you don't know, is the Renix out there, the 1990. Obviously, I've done a few videos on it, and there's been some major chop shop work on it to get it ready for welding, but I haven't actually done any welding yet. I mean, the summer just didn't go to plan. I didn't anticipate there being loads of black mold in the garage, in the roof, and I've had to destroy the whole roof and rebuild it, as you've seen. So the 4 litre is always being progressively worked on, but I just haven't got it in here yet because I need the concrete. So next question from Ross5961. After putting so much work into your XJ, would you recommend the platform? Say if one had the opportunity to buy a 99 XJ, would it be a good buy for a project truck? Sorry, that's me. Or would you choose something different? I totally get what you mean, because you kind of see how much work I put into my Jeep and you're like, is that what I've got to do? It isn't. You don't have to do that. Obviously I've got another vehicle out there, and it's highly unlikely that I'm going to put in the same amount of effort on that vehicle than I have this vehicle. And a lot of things I've done on this, you could also argue, are unnecessary, and they've just kind of been done because I could do it and because I wanted to do it. Now, I'm not going to say that it isn't an awesome truck, because it is, and it's extremely capable, and it's quite unique, and I really love it, and I don't regret anything I've done on it. Yeah, sure, I could revisit jobs and do a better job than I have done. That's just the case with everything in life. But, you know, the thing is, off the shelf, it's very capable, and you can do a lot with it, and there are a lot of stock Cherokees out there doing amazing things. The Cherokee in itself is a great vehicle to build off of, because it's just incredibly simple. It's a piece of piss to work on. But this is the thing, as you said in your comment, a project vehicle. That is what it is. You're not going to buy it and have nothing to do. You're always going to have something to do. But what I will say is, if you're going to buy one, think carefully what you want to do with it. Do you want it to be an overlander? Because if you do, then that will determine what you do to it completely. Like, are you going to be getting big, heavy steel reinforced bumpers? Are you going to want a detachable winch? Are you going to want 35s or 37s? Or are you going to go with 31s? Do you want to reinforce the axles or leave them stock? Do you want a heavy tyre carrier? Do you want a roof rack? You know, like, if you're going with an overlander, you're going to be thinking about range. And if you've got a 4 litre, you're almost certainly going to want to think about range, because it's going to be less economical than a diesel. And especially if you live in Europe, the prices of benzene are pretty high, completely different to the US, where benzene's a lot cheaper. So, you know, there are just certain things to factor in, like depending on geographically where you live, what parts are available to you, and what do you want to do with the vehicle. Because if it's going to be like a full-on off-road monster, like, who gives a shit? Just go nuts with it and have fun with it. But if you want to build like a nice, clean overland truck, then you've got to think differently. Like, mine does a bit of everything. Like I've always said, it's a jack of all trades and a master of none. But it, you know, as an overlander, it does not need to look like this. But obviously I have snow in the winter. You know, the snow has another requirement altogether. So yeah, you know, it has to cross a lot of lines. But yeah, I would definitely recommend one. Just think carefully about what you want to do with it. Christoph Scuba 5466. Are you working full-time as a mechanic now, Mike? Looking forward to seeing how it looks and performs on 37s. I thought I'd answer this one because I don't want any illusions. You see me in that workshop there. I've done a few videos there. Obviously, you know, I say that I run the place, and I guess I do in a respect. I'm the only one working there, and I'm, you know, customers are coming in and I'm, you know, booking stuff. But obviously my boss, Krista, who's a really good friend of mine, he owns the place, and I just run it for him. So he has like a big company in the forest and stuff, and so a lot of vehicles from that business come into that workshop, and I sort of have to work on those too. But you know, it is also a normal verkstad, you know, like a bilverkstad here in town, like a car workshop. So customers come in, but it all has to be booked because it's just me working there, and I'm only there 3 days a week. It's extremely busy, but it's a great job, and I love working there, and I'm just there on my own most of the time anyway. Although a lot of people like do turn up just to talk, and it is f***ing annoying. I'm going to be honest. Like when I get into like a vehicle on a job, I just put my earphones in, I listen to music, I get on with the job, and I work at a fairly good pace. But you know, like when you've got someone chatting to you all the time, it's like it's really annoying. So I lock the door now when I've got like a big job on. My boss is probably watching this laughing because I've sort of said it to him a few times. You know, but they're just banging on the door. It's like Dawn of the Dead out there. You know, yeah, it's a great job, and he's a great guy to work for. He's a really good mate of mine. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the vehicle performs on 37s. I think it'll be total shit. And the reason being is you can't get that much of a variety of a 37 in Sweden. Like if I was in the UK or Poland or Germany, or even Norway, I can order a whole different range of 37s than I can in Sweden. It's like Sweden's like Mordor, and like the tyre can't cross the border. So I'm looking at MAXX. I can't get Nankangs. I can't get any kind of all-terrain pattern like good-looking snow tyre. They're all super aggressive, like dig your ass to China tyres that if you spin the wheels, you're just going to go like that. So I really don't know how it's going to go. The only thing I can hope is that they air down enough and produce enough of a big footprint that it offsets how aggressive they are. But it's probably wishful thinking. At J McCreary 167 says, hey from the Gulf Coast of Mississippi in America, I really enjoy your channel and I have a lifted ZJ. I'm trying to get it up to par with your XJ. Did you buy a ZJ as well as the other XJ? And if not, would you consider it? Mine is a Tory 5.2 litre V8. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I used to own a ZJ. Me and Megan did. It was Megan's vehicle, my wife's, and it was a beautiful example of a ZJ. We loved driving it. It had a 5.2 V8 as well. Yeah, they're really good vehicles. You know, like in terms of the body, yeah, it's a different shape to the XJ. It's slightly bigger. So some advantages and some disadvantages will come with that depending on what you want from a vehicle. I think in my case for an overland vehicle, yeah, the ZJ body would be better because it's bigger and you have more space. So, you know, for storage, you've got more space. And like as a sleeping platform in the vehicle, given I sleep in mine, you've got like a longer platform to sleep in. So, you know, there are definitely advantages there from the ZJ. I mean, you've pretty much got the same front axle. I believe it's the Dana 30. I don't know if it's the high or the low pinion. The rear's a Dana 44 on the ZJ, but arguably it's got the aluminium pumpkin a lot of the time. So I guess, you know, yeah. But I mean, like all these things can be swapped out. Like the ZJ as a vehicle off the shelf is a very capable one. And much like the XJ, you can take it in any direction you want, depending on what kind of person you are. Like I always argue that there are two kinds of people who buy four-wheel drives. There are builders and there are buyers. And like someone who builds vehicles, like, I mean, I've got a friend in the UK with a Navara, and he's like built it into something completely different than a standard Navara. So he like when I see him, I think he's a vehicle builder. So he looks at things on the vehicle and he sees their potential, and he's able to kind of build and fabricate or swap parts and kind of problem solve. And it's not that it's like completely changing the vehicle, but it's like it's improving on design and it's making the vehicle kind of the best of what it could be and taking it in that direction. But if you're a vehicle buyer, so someone who just wants something off the shelf and it's done, and you just want to put different rims on it, different tyres, put some old man emu shocks on it, put a roof rack and a ladder on it, then you're going to want a vehicle to come off of the shelf and not need like frame stiffeners and fabrication work or change the steering geometry or like kind of truss axles and all that kind of stuff. So when I see the ZJ, I think that's a great project vehicle. You know, you've got a good shell, it's a piece of piss to work on, you got pretty good axles, you got a good engine, you got a pretty good transmission. Definitely a great vehicle. The only argument I say that about the ZJ that I'm not massively keen on is a lot of the electronics in it piss me off. And that's kind of like because I'm more into the longevity of components and things, you know, like I'm not really into electric seats and like dashboards that tell me that a door's open or that my coolant needs topping up and it's flashing and beeping at me and sensors go wrong and then it just keeps flashing, and things like that piss me off a lot on cars, and like it's more so now with modern vehicles than things from the ZJ era, for example. But like on the ZJ, I know, you know, there are just a number of electronic things that irritate me, but these are just really small things, and they probably don't mean anything to anybody else. So this is just an old man talking and complaining. So forget about what I said, but it's just my opinions at the end of the day. Anyway, yeah, the ZJ, it's a great vehicle. Mikilukukulukunkun5743 says, have you looked into Volvo's C303 306 portal axles or 60 series Land Cruiser axles? I've seen tighter axles put on such Jeeps in Finland because they are quite durable, stronger parts can be found in them. Many axles have factory installed lockers and there are several gear options available on aftermarket. Yeah, I've seen all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been online, I've looked into things, I've priced it up, and I'm just not interested. One thing I will say on a portal axle is the gearing. Is there gearing reduction on that? I think there is. So yeah, I mean, like a portal axle in the snow, you've got less hang-ups. It's definitely going to be performing better than my straight beam axle that I've got there that's like dragging and ploughing through the snow. But like in terms of like the duration of winter and the value of having a portal, for me, it just isn't worth it. I might as well just spend the money on a really good snowmobile and just get out into the woods on the snowmobile and have more fun and be able to access more places and do a lot more legally than I would be in this vehicle here. Do you know what I mean? Like in Sweden, I can literally drive my snowmobile wherever I want, really, within reason. And I could do it with my kids, and we go ice fishing and you make a fire and for the day. It's great, you know. You can do, but you can't do that with this, you know. It's not really like Iceland where you can just drive off wherever you want. You have to stay on the roads or on the trails, yeah, like on the forest roads. So it's much more limited as to what you can do. So like snowmobile culture here is pretty big. These axles cost a lot of money. Like if I happen to come across some Nissan Portal axles for a good price, Nissan Patrol axles for a good price, then I will definitely get them. Just because they're much stronger. You know, I don't have to worry about snapping shafts and destroying ring gears on a bigger axle, with bigger tyres, sorry. I can't speak today. A little bit under the weather still. It's probably the Rona. Sophie's Bowels, 1938. I'm really sorry, I couldn't help it. I've just bought a Jeep Cherokee on 35-inch tyres, and it is horrible to drive on the road. Have you got any advice? It will be to do with your lift kit, the geometry of your lift kit. It won't necessarily be to do with the tyres. I could put the worst 35-inch mud terrains on this vehicle that money couldn't buy, and it would still drive fine. So the real question is, what do you mean by it's driving horrible? Is it the sound that the tyres are making, resonating into the cab? Has it got bump steer? Is it just like the suspension is really hard? You know, is the whole vehicle shaking and rattling apart? What lift kit do you have? More often than not, like when you buy a Cherokee that someone's lifted and put big tyres on, they've generally skimped on the thing they shouldn't have skimped on, which is the lift kit itself. I know from experience when I first bought my Cherokee and I had a rough country short arm lift that it drove like crap on the road. It literally was a rough ride. So the suspension itself will be playing the key role in the ride comfort of the vehicle. Like if you've got a short arm lift and the arms are like that, so like the lower control arm is like this going to the axle, that is going to be savage. You know, you really want them like as kind of horizontal as possible. So when you absorb a bump, the axle's going up like that. Like when you hit a bump like that, the impact, you know, to cause that arm to lift, that axle to jump up, it's going to be transmitting so much force into the control arm and up into the body of the vehicle. It's going to be atrocious. You know, I know from experience, really. I mean, my short arm lift, I was able to make it better with drop brackets, but even then, that was just a temporary fix for what was a bigger problem. And the higher and the bigger tie, like with a 35, you're probably on a 6.5 inch lift, I reckon, around 6 inches. So you really should be running some kind of long arm lift. Like I ran short arms for way too long. I mean, I got away with it for a while, but when I went to long arm, everything changes. In fact, let me put that another way. When I went to dong arm, everything changed, Sophie. All right. So before I destroy my reputation anymore, I'm on to the next question. Justin Keo Skelekadeki 6201. Did you drop some money on some Arctic truck tyres? No, mate, I did not. I do not have the money for those. I wish I did. I wish I did, mate. But the prices over here in Scandinavia, it is sickening. It is sickening. I could knock this garage down and build a new luxury garage with car lift for the price that they want for some Arctic truck tyres out here. It's just too much money, mate. So one day it will happen, but you know, my kids, my family, all of that stuff come first. Putting money away for the boys, little projects in the background like this, enjoying the stuff I've got. So, you know, that's kind of like the priorities of life right now. I just can't afford it. And I have bought some 35s, but they're not going to be what I need. They're just what I can get, really. So you will see the horror that's coming in due course. But other than that adventure that will be out next weekend, obviously I need to get this concrete down, and then I'll have a much nicer usable workshop at home to house the 4 litre in, and then I can just get into sort of putting those floor pans and stuff in, which I'm sort of dead excited to get done. I know, like, from a viewer's point of view, you might be like, well, it's really taking its sweet ass time, Mike, but you know, life is just quite full really at the moment with work and family and everything, and you know, all the preparations that have gone into sort of renovating this place, which looks pretty shit at the moment, but hopefully when you've got a nice concrete floor down, I can weld in here to my heart's content without worrying about fire and everything else that I had to contend with before. But I actually just bought myself a tyre groover. I got this from AliExpress for 1,600 kroner, which is like about, I don't know, 140 euros or something like that. It's a pretty inexpensive bit of kit, but it actually looks pretty decent. And I'm gonna sort of like try and then get my tyres ready in time for winter. You know, I need to sipe them, obviously screw some studs in them. So there are going to be some episodes, or an episode on preparing the tyres and winterising them, getting them all put on the vehicle, bump stops, shocks, dialing it in so they fit properly and everything. And when it articulates, it doesn't rip the hell out of the vehicle. You know, it needs to be bump stopped properly, especially when you've got tyre studs. You absolutely got to bump stop it properly. The studs just shred the wheel wells otherwise, and everything else they touch. And obviously getting concrete in here and the 4 litre coming in here. So that's really the content that's to come. I hope you enjoy the videos. Really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you again next week, hopefully out in the wilderness. So take care. See you again soon.